What's something you wholeheartedly believe but just don't have enough evidence to prove it yet? Intelligent aliens. The universe is really, really, really big. Like, super duper, mega, monstrously big. I find it very unlikely that there aren't some intelligent aliens doing alien things somewhere out there at this very moment. I find it statistically impossible for life not to have started at some other point in the universe. Like you said, the universe is too big for it to only happen once. I also find it statistically unlikely that we will ever meet one in the entirety of human existence. The universe is also too big for it to happen twice so close together. Yeah, that's what I think. There's probably aliens, but they are galaxies away and probably won't ever reach us. That my dad's cousin is actually his half-brother. My mom and I are pretty sure. His looks, even his mannerisms, are 100% my grandfather, not my great-uncle. We also believe it was on purpose, as my great-aunt and uncle tried for years to get pregnant before they finally had him, and they never had more despite wanting them. We think my great-uncle was infertile and that my grandfather donated sperm. Both my grandfather and great-uncle are gone now, and my great-aunt would never tell, but we're pretty sure. D.B. Cooper is still out there. The only thing that makes me pause thinking about the D.B. Cooper case is that all the money was marked. Not a single bill has ever turned up in circulation, and in fact in 1980, about 8 years after the hijacking, a group of campers found several $1,000s of that money near a lake shore buried. So if he is still alive, he never spent any of the money he took. My thoughts exactly on Cooper's demise. But actually the money was found on a sandbar in the Columbia River, upstream from where everyone thought he jumped. Also the bundles still had intact rubber bands. That could only happen if the money was buried there within a year of the jump. My theory is the U.S. government knows who D.B. Cooper is. Why? Alcatraz escape file, still open. Gardner Museum robbery file, still open. Zodiac murders file, still open. D.B. Cooper file, closed. Cooper seemed to have some military background. He knew the 727 aft stairs could be opened and you could parachute out them if the 727 was in a particular flight envelope which he instructed the pilots to fly. Now who was flying 727s using them for airdrops at the time? Air America, the CIA. They were using 727 to make illegal supply drops via parachutes into Cambodia right at that time. D.B. Cooper was involved with the CIA and they were aware of his identity. They eventually told the FBI, so they've stopped wasting resources on it and closed the file but can't admit it for national security reasons. That people talk behind my back and my colleagues are fake nice-ing me. I've struggled with this belief since I was a child. I don't think it's too illogical because my narcissistic mother was talking not very far behind my back to my aunts and uncles all the time, and I've had both friends and coworkers turn on me before. But sometimes I believe that literally no one likes me and every single person in my life is fake nice-ing me like some hellish version of the Truman Show. A hard but helpful pill to swallow, it's entirely possible and even likely, but that's okay. People very often talk about other people when they are not present, especially in small circumstantial groups like colleagues. They may not even like you, and if they don't, they certainly talk about that amongst themselves. But, and this is a big but, if they don't like you, it doesn't matter. You aren't their kind of people. If they can fake nice to you, it means at the very least that you aren't objectionable enough to require confrontation or correction, and that's enough to get along with most people in the world. Everybody isn't gonna like you. Worry about the people who do. Lots of products like chapstick and lotions give you a temporary relief but ultimately end up drying your skin more so that you're forced to keep using it and keep buying it. Building on your theory, I actually think many products to improve your skin might do the exact opposite. My theory is because I've always made an effort with face creams and even seeing a skin expert for my face, but it's where my skin is the worst: little rosacea, dark circles under my eyes, not the most refined pores and combination skin, also signs of wear and tear from life, but my body is fine. Not a single issue. I've never made the same kind of effort with my body and it's like it's two different people, so thankful for makeup. Plus we all know men who have perfect skin and will use the same bar of soap over every inch ink hair. I truly believe that Neanderthals were a lot more advanced than we make them appear to be. I bet that they weren't that noticeably different from Homo sapiens at the time. Like the fact that people still don't believe they had language is just ridiculous to me. Morphologically they were different, hence why they're considered a separate species. But evidence shows that they easily interbred with us and probably had some sort of pseudo-religion based on the way they buried their dead. Modern art is a money laundering and tax evasion scam. I graduated from an art school and I can confirm. At the beginning of our studies we pledge our allegiance to the mafia and then proceed to learn basic money laundering schemes and other criminal activities. We's gonna have tay talk to yous. Boss ain't happy you ratted. Megalodon still swims the depths. At least. I'd like to believe it, despite my crippling thalassophobia. Unlikely simply because of the data we have on their preferred climate. Based on fossils they stick to warm shallow waters rather than the icy depths. This doesn't however mean that a different species of enormous shark can't exist in the depths of the ocean. I like to believe that a lot of stories of ocean monsters are true and that the bloop sound was a creature rather than an iceberg. I believe that what people call the spirit is really consciousness, and that God is the universe, and has its own kind of meta-consciousness which is made up of each of us and all things, living or non-living, that exist. Therefore, all that exists is God, and that means we too are all literally God. The reason that we exist is so that the meta-consciousness we could call God can experience itself through us, because if all that exists is God, one cannot know it is God without anything to compare it to. I believe that we do not ever die, and we can do incredible things such as what one would call miracles, but this isn't usually possible because most of us have convinced ourselves that it isn't, and through trained focus of consciousness we can do marvelous things. When we die, our consciousness returns to the meta-consciousness and can break away to be reborn as something else if we wish to, and that our bodily energy simply gets recycled into the universe again also. Time does not exist. We could time travel, which means that more or less the past and future are actually happening at the same time as the present, but it seems different based on our reference point. This would say that we exist in multiple places at once, and our consciousness or spirit would exist in all of the versions of ourselves, and likely other people too, which is like what one might call a past life. Good and evil do not exist. Both are simply points of opinion, because the meta-consciousness has no preferences at all because nothing can hurt or damage it. The pieces of the meta-consciousness which we experience in our bodily forms and call ourselves have preferences in our experiences, but that is not the same as right and wrong. There is just what is functional to meet our goals, and what is not. However, most people live lives where they believe that we are separate from God and choose to live lives where this is the reality we experience. Yet ultimately we need not learn any truth we do not have, we merely need to remember what we as God already know. I'll have what he's having. Extinction Rebellion are a false flag operation by big oil companies to smear the climate change movement. All of their protests are mind-numbingly stupid and almost always end up backfiring in some way. Stopping public transport in working-class areas to encourage people to drive individually instead? Don't buy it. Dyeing a river and poisoning fish to clean up the environment? Don't buy it. Trying to spray fake blood over a government building with a fire engine but mishandling it so embarrassingly and spraying it all over yourself? Don't buy it. Everything they do seems like a parody of what people think climate change protesters are. Not to mention having access to things that some random kooks wouldn't. Where did they get access to a current fire engine? Where did they get gallons of industrial dye for a river? How did they get on top of a commercial plane without being arrested, or more likely, shot dead? And how, no matter what they do they never get arrested? Nothing about them or their movement adds up. I don't doubt that some of the shit munchers doing the grunt work are genuine morons. But their central command and organizers are clearly not on the side they claim to be. Completely agree. They're also strangely cultish, just take a look at their YouTube channel. Also read an incredibly interesting article about them basically documenting all this. Need to find it again. There was a story in the UK about 7 years ago about an MI6 agent who was found dead in a suitcase. The verdict was that he locked himself in the suitcase, but I find that hard to do. Be dead, then lock yourself in a suitcase. Here, https://www.theguardian.com/uk-news/2013/me6-spy-dead-Gareth-Williams as more information, but I think it's one of those stories where the agencies basically say, fuck it, tell them whatever, they'll forget about it in a week. I remember that. Blatant foul play at work. However, we aren't going to be entertained with the truth because 1. Why should we care? 2. It's above our understanding. 3. We will forget about it and move on very quickly. At least that's why I believe we don't get told 99% of the stuff that really goes on. That case is BS through and through. That I'm attractive. Grandma always told me I'm beautiful on the inside. That women's clothing intentionally doesn't have good pockets in order to support the purse industry. I want to design and make wedding dresses. I'm going to make sure every dress I make has at least one hidden pocket that is big enough to hold your phone and wedding vows so you don't have to hide them in your bra like I did. I dropped my phone in the toilet the other week because my backed jeans pocket is stupid. My boyfriend has generous pockets and always asks me to carry all his things because you've always got a bag, you like carrying stuff. Yes, that's me. Dobbin the pack mule. That we have no free will. Similarly, there is an episode of Radiolab where they discuss that based on brain scans people actually seem to make decisions before they realize they've made them. I can't remember what episode it is, but I think it might be called Is Free Will Really Free? That ducks are, in fact, stalking humans. And not just ducks in general. You have a specific duck that follows you around. Watching. Waiting. You sometimes see it from the corner of your eye, but you convince yourself it can't possibly be the same duck which has been following you around since you were 7. Surely, it can't be. You're just paranoid from smoking too much quack. You heard it on herddit.radio. Thank you for listening and we hope to see you next time.